Non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication means conveying information without using words. This might involve using certain facial expressions or hands gestures to make a special point, or it could involve the use of or non-use of eye contact, physical proximity, and other non-verbal cues to get a message across. A substantial portion of our communication is non-verbal. In fact, some researchers suggest that the percentage of non-verbal communication is 4 times that of verbal communication, with 80% of what we communicate involving our actions and gestures versus only 20% being conveyed with the use of words. Every day we respond to thousands of non-verbal cues and behaviors, including postures, facial expressions, eye gaze, gestures, and tone of voice, from our handshakes to our hairstyle. And our non-verbal communication reveals who we are and impacts how we relate to others. Non-verbal communication types. While these signals can be so subtle that we are not consciously aware of them, research has identified 9 types of the non-verbal communication. These non-verbal communication types are facial expressions. Facial expressions are responsible for a huge proportion of non-verbal communication. Consider how much information can be conveyed with a smile or a frown. The look on a person's face is often the first thing we see, even before we hear what they have to say. While non-verbal communication and verbal communication can vary dramatically between cultures, the facial expression for happiness, sadness, anger, and fear are similar throughout the world. Gestures. Deliberate movements and signals are an important way to communicate meaning without words. Common gestures include waving coins and giving a thumbs up. Other gestures are arbitrary and related to culture. For example, in the US, putting the index and the middle finger in the shape of V with your palm facing out is often considered to be a sign of peace or victory. Yet in Britain, Australia, and other parts of the world, this gesture can be considered an insult. Non-verbal communication via gestures is so powerful and influential that some judges place limits on which ones are allowed in the courtroom, where they can sway jury opinions, and attorney might glance at their watch to suggest that the opposing lawyer's argument is tedious, for instance, or they may roll their eyes during the witness testimony in an attempt to undermine that person's credibility. Paralinguistics. Paralinguistics refers to vocal communication that is separate from actual language. This form of non-verbal communication includes factors such as tone of voice, loudness, inflection, and pitch. For example, consider the powerful effect that tone of voice can have on the meaning of a sentence. When said in a strong tone of voice, listeners might interpret a statement as approval and enthusiasm. The same words said in the hesitant tone can convey disapproval and a lack of interest. Body language and posture and movement can also provide a great deal of information. Research on body language has grown significantly since 1970s with proper media focusing on the overall interpretation of defensive postures such as arm crossing and leg crossing, especially after the publication of Julius Fast's book Body Language. While this non-verbal communication can indicate feelings and attitudes, body language is often subtle and less definitive than previously bewildered. People often refer to their needs to be needs for personal space. This is also known as proxemics and another important type of the non-verbal communication. The amount of distance we need and the amount of space we pursue as belonging to us as influenced by several factors. Among them are social norms, cultural expectations, situational factors, personality characteristics, and level of familiarity. The amount of personal space needed when having the casual conversation and with another person can vary between 18 inches and 4 feet. The person distance needed when speaking to a crowd of people is usually around 10 to 12 feet. Eye gaze. The eye play a role in non-verbal communication with such things as looking, staring, and blinking between important cues. For example, when you encounter people or things that you like, your rate of blinking increase and your pupils dilate. People's eyes can indicate a range of emotions, including hostility, interest, and attraction. People also often utilize eye gaze cues to gauge a person's honesty. Normal, steady eye contact is often taken as a sign that a person is telling the truth and is trustworthy. Shifty eyes and inability to maintain the eye contact, on the other hand, is frequently seen as an indicator that someone is lying or being deceptive. However, some research suggests that eye gaze does not accurately predict lying behavior. Haptics, communicating through touch, is another important non-verbal communication behavior. Touch can be used to communicate affection, familiarity, sympathy, and other emotions. In her book, Interpersonal Communication, Everyday Encounter, author Julia Wood writes that touch is also often used to communicate both status and power. Higher status individuals tend to invade the other people's personal space with a greater frequency and intensity than lower status individuals. Sex differences also play a role in how people utilize touch to communicate meaning. Women tend to use touch to convey care, concern, and their attachment. Men, on the other hand, are more likely to use touch to assert power or control over others. There has been a substantial amount of research on the importance of touch in infancy and early childhood. Harry Harold's classic monkey study, for example, demonstrated how being deprived of touch impedes development. In the experiments, Baby monkeys raised by wild mothers experienced permanent deflects in behavior and social interaction. The another point is appearance, where the part of the appearance, our choice of clothing, hairstyle, and other appearance factors are also considered as a means of non-verbal communication. And the another factor, that is, the objects and images are also tools that can be used as a communication non-verbally on an online forum. For example, you might select an avatar to represent your identity and communication information about you are and the things you like. Such things are related to your non-verbal communication. With this, I conclude. Thank you.